The executive branch in the halls of Congress determining what the business of Congress is, and not even through the courtesy of a phone call to the vice president or the president, but through minions and stooges.
Mm-hmm.
Unelected, probably CIA.
Yeah, well, certainly. Yeah.
When you hear about the lineup for the hearing that was held, you got to be feeling pretty good about it.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a witness. He's going to talk about Immaculate Constellation.
And not just a witness on his own next to Lou Elizondo, Tim Gallaudet, and this guy I've never heard of before, but seems nice, Mike Gold.
Mike Gold.
Mike Gold.
That's great.
They're thinking, all right, good. All right.
Yep.
It's going to come out.
We were all punked.
Did you know exactly what was going to be discussed by the Schellenberger at that point? You can guess.
I mean, I knew it was going to be, me and my words and my report.
And because the two of you met with him the night before the hearing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I had met with Michael to give him the story. It seemed like there's no mystery here why they're bringing him.
Yeah, there was a lot before that too, but I mean, I have a 2+ month process of prompting, trying to get something on congressional record, knowing that what your testimony was valuable. It wasn't just like spur of the moment. There is a process. It was 3 major meetings that occurred to validate the information that that you provided to me. It's not just like, so getting on something on congressional record is a little bit more tricky than people think. They have to have time with it. So I very slowly, with your authorization, over those months, had in-person meetings, not just you being there, but then working with them, showing them the information so they had time to vet it. They're worried about getting scammed too, right? So it was a process. It was a process that for me was very arduous. Personally,
there were a lot of phone conversations that we sat in on with House staff, and it got curiouser and curiouser as the people who were in on these conversations with us on the other
national
end.
Security folks just popping in on a meeting that I'm supposed to be having with them. They wanted to know what assets George and I have to visually show them. We were going to provide them. They were saying at one point that we were going to testify, and I said, "Cool." And I want to give something substantial to the American public. This is what I want to give them. Well, at some point they're trying to get us into a skiff, and our federal lawyer said, do not go in there because they will immediately classify all that information that allegedly you may have access to, and then you're never reporting on it. So we went through our own journey. We don't have to get into that in this discussion, but there was a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. But hooray, congressional record, your report, which is misrepresented when Nancy Mace talked about it big time, but we're happy. And I was stoked to have Michael Schellenberger, who at that time I was like, this is great. He's going to be a good ally moving forward, and he's the right man for the job. Yeah, but bottom line, no matter the shenanigans involved and how revealing that second hearing was about the control mechanisms in place about UAP, I was elated, and I think so were you, that without having to put your face out to the public and endure all of that like you're doing and going to experience now, your testimony got put on a congressional record. That was a big win.
Yeah. There was a bit of a personal pleasure too. I, at the very least, got to see someone else be scared for once.
Who was scared?
Not the bosses of the people who interfere in Congress, but the minions themselves, because their bosses didn't tell them what was going to happen.
Can you dive a little deeper into that?
Well, by all appearances, both behind the scenes and in front of them, the submission of this report onto the congressional record and its announcement caught people by surprise. Its distribution was allegedly very tight, and these unelected members on these congressional staffs that get to set the agenda for our elected leaders had to scramble and adjust in real time. They panicked.
See, having something on congressional record is different than just putting out a news report. News report goes away, one click, done. This is much bigger, and I saw that too. So it was a big move, and it was filled with pleasure to see. It stirred shit up.
Yes.
You said it before, and I want to drill this home. At one time, saying these words, putting these words in text, saying them over the phone, there was repercussion for that at one time.
I understand it.
As I understand it as well. But so it gets published, and I was stoked. I remember that day I went on a news show, and I was like, I had nothing. I didn't do it. Somebody put it out. I mean, you let me know that it was going to be public, but I was like stoked to hear those words mentioned. But getting it on record, watching the tables turn was filled with pleasure.
Yeah, no long-term outcome, but this
yet.
is a fight without many wins. So
Okay.
take the small personal pleasures.
As this news travels, is there a blowback? Do you suddenly realize, hey, something might happen to me as a result of this getting out there? You're happy that it's finally there on the record. But then does that change over the days or weeks afterward?
Not so much. I was definitely under no illusions at this point. Nothing would functionally change. But what mattered was, adding new fuel to the fire to what looked like was a dying cause.
Is there blowback for you personally? Does anybody call you and say you shouldn't have done that? Or does somebody figure out who you are? Is there an attempt to identify who you are?
I'm sure there were attempts, and I'm sure some of them were successful, but I mean, I've been known to internal security undoubtedly since almost day one.
Here's the deal. People misunderstand because it was misrepresented in Congress. This is not a Pentagon paper, a product.
Yeah.
You are the author of what the world knows as the Immaculate Constellation Report. This is a report based upon a field report, based upon your investigation, what you've discovered, trying to do the right thing, bringing it to the people that need to see it because it was so hard, even though they're asking for you, to get it to them. So just to be really clear fundamentally for people, Immaculate Constellation Report, what was submitted into Congress onto congressional record, which we fought together to get that done, is your words. It's not some government Pentagon report like it was misrepresented by Nancy Mason Congress.
Not at all. All my words, 100% authored by me.
One of the striking things for me in kind of talking with you through this process, but also just reading the final report that went on to congressional record, I mean, you list and label cuboid formation of metallic orbs. These are UFOs, right? So fast mover observed transiting over sensitive facilities. Intelligence vessels positioned to collect on reproduction vehicle. Equilateral triangle UAP tails unwitting vessel. This one struck me. Large disk using clouds as concealment. And why that struck me is because George and I have been exposed to a lot over the years. And I think I know, and other people know, what you're referencing in here. It sounds like you watched a video. You said, on U.S. government networks, there exists OPIR footage. What is it?
Overhead persistent infrared. That might be a correction. That satellite may not have been an OPR satellite after all.
But this one, and you keep going on, a boomerang shaped, jellyfish shaped, tic tac shaped. You're not just making these words up. Like, you saw visual evidence of these.
Yeah.
And so did have George Knapp and I. We have been exposed to, along the years, a lot of visual evidence. But this one, the large disc in the clouds, just explain to me seeing something like that.
Well, number one, it's pretty striking because you're watching it from space. It's always cool to watch satellite feeds. And that's just something the general public doesn't get to see. And then, too, just the size of it, it was immediately like, whoa, what the hell is that? It was in, I assume, infrared, black hot for that one. So the white clouds around it. And yeah, it's almost playful in its activities, or like it was startled. But it's one of those cases where I look at it and, it looks like a flying saucer, but it might be one of the things that maybe that was actually one of ours. In the wrong place at the wrong time.
What do you mean it looks startled? What does that mean?
It's just looking at an area over the ocean is what it appears. And this thing just comes trundling along from like underneath the cloud cover, comes up. And then right when it's like almost center frame, it scoots off to the side and like tries to get out of,
like, it comes into it and going, oops, somebody spotted me. I can get out of here.
Exactly. It was visibly, that's the feeling it had.
That was kind of haunting to me. We checked when we were with some friends recently. I never know. We are not qualified to know if some of the things we've been exposed to are legitimate or not. But when I get confirmations like you describing this and other people we've just recently talked to, I know that footage exists. We've been exposed to it. And I think that that's a nice piece to the puzzle for the public.
Tonight on The Future of Everything, we've got some new UAP video from filmmaker and journalist Jeremy Corbell, who is standing by to break it all down. But first, here's a little bit of a closer look. This is a freeze frame. This is with some boosted contrast of what appears to be a disc-shaped object captured back in 2020, possibly somewhere over Afghanistan, Pakistan, the border there. Roll the video here. Jeremy says that this was filmed by some sort of asset, DOD asset, and forward-looking infrared shot from above looking down, and was, according to Corbell, the U.S. Air Force describing this object as possibly navigating through the clouds. There's no heat signature that you can see here. Nothing you would expect for a normal aircraft as it dips its way through. We're told the Pentagon logged it as a UAP, but so far it has not appeared on the Aero public list. That office tracking this stuff, whose official response to our request for comment was, quote, "We have nothing to offer." So Jeremy Corbell is the host of the podcast Weaponized. He joins us on set. Jeremy, good to see you. Welcome back.
Good to see you, man.
All right, so getting into this, navigating through the clouds, like, I hate to even bring this up, but that sounds a lot like Jordan Peele wrote it in Nope, right? That's what we saw a little bit in Nope. What's going on here? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so for a couple years of investigating this footage, right, making sure it's authentic, where it came from, that was the running joke, was that it looks like the movie Nope. What we're seeing here that's different than ever before, you know that I've obtained and released with George Knapp thermal videos of UAP. Now, our government has admitted some of what we've put out. They've admitted they're UAP. I'll tell you this, I'm not saying it. That was in the original footage. It says UAP navigating through clouds. They called it a disc. I'm not even calling it a disc, but what you're seeing is first shape. I have never seen in all UFO history, when it comes out of military, an actual circular form. It was amazing to me. The second is the movement. When you see it make an abrupt turn from your left to your right when you're watching it. And the third thing that really was astonishing to me, this is in thermal. There is no heat signature of traditional propulsion. It is a perfect looking disc. Maybe it's an orb. I don't know, but I do know this. Our Air Force passively captured it. Then they said that this is a UAP. It is still designated a UAP. So when George and I obtain and release these, it's so the public can see. We're hoping to do a little bit of the job that we're not seeing with folks from Aero.
And now, it does say AI enhanced. There, it looks like there's some artifacting around it. What is the actual video, and what is possible artifacts from trying to boost the contracts and see what's going on here?
So we did an analysis of the video, but what I did was make sure to put out the original things that George and Knapp and I obtained. So you see it clearly says video 1, video 2, video 3. Our own government, because they've been studying this in the intelligence community since 2020, they did a sort of rudimentary, I would say, kind of highlighting or enhancement of it. And that's why you see like a white ring around it.
It's 2020 enhancement. This is like pre-ChatGPT, pre-AI revolution here.
So what we did was we went in there just so people could see it better. We make it very clear, AI enhanced, because it changes the shape. It's a perfect sphere or a perfect circle, depending on angle of observation when you watch it. So what we did was heighten contrast, and we also made sure that you could see as it goes into the clouds, we punched in. So the military videos are the ones that are black and white. The ones that we tried to enhance so people could just see a little bit better of shape and movement is kind of more blue.
And I mean, it's circular, and this is looking down at Earth, so you're looking at the clouds. Like, is there a chance that this is just a balloon?
Right. So if you look at the movement and you look at wind, and this is why we put it out to the detectives online, but our military doesn't think so. Our military called it a disc. Our intelligence community has been at this since 2020. Now, look, when assets like this get out to journalists like me and George, we're not experts at this, but we know and can report that our military calls us UAP, like every piece of footage we've put out. It's fascinating, man. And I think this rides on a much bigger and more important topic, which is that there are whistleblowers, and there are 3 who have confirmed to me, firsthand whistleblowers, that they will testify under oath publicly at Congress. Congress needs to respond to this video. It is time for them to respond to this. because I have people that are willing to testify at the next congressional hearing on UAP.
Yeah, whether people like it or not, I mean, you have become the conduit for so many of these videos here. The military, you know, to us, the DOD is like, we have nothing to offer on this, and yet we don't see it on the Arrow website. What part of this would be classified? Like, why wouldn't this be listed?
I am not qualified to assess that kind of answer. I don't know. But what I do know is that every time that George Knapp and I, we obtain and release footage, it is funny how Arrow then puts out something that looks similar, but it is not similar. Why don't you just put it out to the American public? I'm actually asking them to do so. They should do so, just like all the videos that George Knapp and I obtained and released. And when they do put stuff out, a lot of times what they do is they just take what was already publicly available, like the Tic Tac UAP. And you might remember I released a Tic Tac UAP from 2023. This is ongoing, man. And I'll tell you one last thing about this. This is the tip of the iceberg, what you're seeing here. George Knapp and I are committed to reporting on our best evidence, and you're seeing a part of that now.
No, that means that you got more. That means that there's other stuff. I know you well enough to...
I hope that the world gets to see more, better, diverse footage. I am not in absolute control of how the world receives things, but as a journalist, I am going to fight to get as much out as humanly possible.
Got it. And real quick, what's the update on Capitol Hill? Like, sometimes it seems like there's progress being made towards some sort of disclosure. Next thing you know, it's completely forgotten. No one's talking about it, and it seems like it's fallen off the radar. Like, when are we going to get answers?
It has not fallen off the radar. So Representative Luna has a task force. Representative Burlison is being vocal. Representative Burchett is fighting the fight to get transparency on UAP because UFOs are real and they show us something. They demonstrate a technology that we cannot replicate. Even Arrow has to admit that. So the American public wants to know, are we going to have hearings? And I'll tell you this, man, I have constant talks on a weekly basis with everybody organizing, including David Grush, who still works in government as a whistleblower now. He got a job working with UAP task force or whatever they're calling it now. There will be more hearings. If they have courage, there will be more hearings. And I have 3 firsthand witnesses that they can put up to testify.
We're looking forward to witnesses. We're looking forward to more evidence. Jeremy Corbell, so good to see you.
Fascinating topic, isn't it?
Yeah, always a fascinating topic. Thanks.
Okay.
You ever see any videos where we're engaging with them? Either we're chasing them, our warplanes or something, or going after a disc, a saucer, an orb, or something like that?
So I've seen videos and read reports of engagements, but not live, like we're not shooting them, but engagements where, you know, either we are trying to intercept something, read lots of reports on that, and from other countries as well, trying to intercept these things. You know, each report will have its own shape that they're chasing, but guess what they are. But then, when there's an example in there off the East Coast of what would be classed as an engagement, where we're up there protecting our airspace and encountering these things and interacting with them in a way that we would consider hostile. And if it was anything else, you know, if we had a Russian bomber patrol that had a fighter escort and they tried to box our fighters out, force them down from the wash, the jet wash, you know, that would be a hostile engagement. But for whatever reason, you know, we're not describing it that way internally.
So we're sending a plane up to take a look.
Yeah.
Maybe get a better look or even some imagery, but not to engage, meaning shoot it down, shoot a Sidewinder at it or something.
Right. I would, you know, I'm not going to be able to say that's never happened, but I have not seen them engaged, with weapons.
Well, it recently happened, and we became aware of one. More details on that I think we'll report on. And what happened was the missile, quote, bounced off. And so they're trying to figure that out, but you know, what does that imply? Like a field around it? I don't know.
Future of everything. This one is, I mean, what in the Hellfire missile is this video that was just introduced on Capitol Hill during an oversight committee that allegedly shows the U.S. military using a drone to shoot down some sort of unidentified flying object thing. There's that missile that hits that object. This is happening over the coast or near the coast of Yemen. That UAP just like continues to fly. And when you look close, you can see what looks like maybe 3 other objects flying off of it. Can we just slow this down a little bit and play it back if we can to see exactly what we're talking about? All right, so there's the missile, makes a strike. This is a huge board, so I get to see this up close. 3 different distinct objects. This thing seems to be spinning a little bit, and then it zooms out. But when this missile hits, I mean, what are we seeing here? Are we seeing these parts coming off of this, what was supposed to be like a sphere? Or are these parts of the Hellfire missile? Is this parallax that makes everything looks like it's going a lot faster? We have no idea. Remember, this is a 2D image. We're talking 3D from above, possibly a lot of confusion, but lawmakers were told that that missile was a Hellfire missile. We don't know what happens after the video cuts off, and we are missing a lot of information about the actual mission that was being flown. The only reason why we're seeing this video is because an unknown whistleblower apparently gave it to Congressman Eric Burlison, who released it publicly during today's oversight meeting. And this thing, which is explosive enough, this is just the tip of the iceberg on what was discussed. As you can imagine, lawmakers want some answers.
The public should be seeing this stuff. And why you're not allowed to, I don't know. But that's a Hellfire missile smacking into that UFO and just bounced right off. And it kept going.
Are you aware of anything in the government, United States government arsenal that can split a Hellfire missile like this?
No.
And do whatever blob thing it did and then keep going? Nothing?
Nothing.
Does this video scare you guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Wiggins?
Yes.
Nat?
I had a different reaction. I was really happy that it got out.
And let's bring in Florida Representative Anna Paulino Luna, who has been spearheading the declassification of all things UAP in Washington. She was a chairwoman for today's wild hearing. Congresswoman, great to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. It has been a few hours now since that video was released during your committee. Like, what was your reaction?
I think that myself and all members on that task force, to include the witnesses, have the very same reaction, and that nothing, to my knowledge, exists in our arsenal that can split a Hellfire missile like that. But more importantly, why are videos like this being overclassified and held back from the American people? In my opinion, if we're writing the checks, if Congress has the authority and oversight to investigate why are we being denied access. And so, look, I understand that this is a very big government and there's a lot of moving pieces, and I know that this administration has exercised the utmost transparency, which is exactly why we are going to them to get help on this issue. And as you heard from one of our witnesses, Chief Wiggins, he actually was given approval and permission to testify to Congress by the U.S. Department of the Navy. And so I think that that's a massive win in regards to transparency. And we look forward to continuing to, track down these leads, but also for pushing for declassification of much more footage that, in my opinion, exists. And then also to ensuring that our whistleblowers are protected. So we are asking people to support their senators and their members of Congress voting for the UAP Disclosure Act, as well as whistleblower protections.
Yeah, that whistleblower protection is so important. And yet this video, we know it came from a whistleblower. Mm-hmm. We don't know who that whistleblower was. I understand that this was some sort of dead drop to the representative. I got to ask, I mean, I've been watching this video for way too long today. Like, do you think that there is a possibility that this is something that the U.S. military was testing out, like some way to take out drones? I know that the Hellfire variants, they have some that have spinning blades for soft targets, or maybe, I don't know, like a balloon or something? Or do you think that this is advanced tech that we just don't have?
You know, I think that there is obviously always going to be the case that maybe people have presented that they might try to say that it's a balloon, but I don't know any balloons that can be split and then stay together the way that this particular thing did. But what I will tell you is, in the name of science and in the name of national security, we should be getting answers to these questions, and we should be taking this seriously, and we should be investigating. I can tell you that in my district alone in Pinellas County that there's a number of these sightings, but I'm not the only one. There was many members of Congress who have this phenomenon that takes place within their congressional districts as well. But I'm not the only person that feels this way. This is bicameral and bipartisan, and I think that this is probably one of the biggest bipartisan issues currently in Washington, D.C.
Hands down, and hopefully we can all come together on this. I mean, you've been so relentless in your Yeah, you've been relentless in your pursuit of all this. You are, you now have a committee. You're chairing the task force on declassification of federal secrets. Like, you have access, at least more access to bases and files and skiffs than I do. And I know that you're having trouble. So, like, why is it so hard to just take a video like this, go to somebody inside the Pentagon and be like, what is going on?
Well, again, when we tried to, as a committee, get briefings on certain information, specifically at the Department of Defense, we were told that we don't hold access authority and that we had to be a part of certain committees, but that's not true. In fact, oversight is actually the overarching branch of Congress that actually has investigative authorities into every single sector and branch of government, and so that's false. There's an issue with overclassification, but also, too, as you stated, many whistleblowers are afraid of being hit with the Espionage Act, especially if they are in positions in the intelligence community, and so that's exactly why we need to talk about immunity. We're actually going to be asking for the committee to vote as a whole to give certain people that we want to get into SCIF immunity so that they can actually talk to what they might know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's our job, whether or not these things are natural phenomena, whether or not these things are adversarial in nature. I think that not answering those questions, I think that not having the discussion breeds room for error, and especially in regards to theories that might not necessarily be correct. And so I'm looking at this from a very analytical perspective, but what I can tell you is, just like you stated, you've been watching this video. It's pretty wild and bizarre. I don't think that it should have been classified in the way that it was, and I think that there's more information that should be released to the American people.
And finally, like, I mean, this was, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, this was a kind of a bombshell from left field during that committee hearing. You also heard testimony from service members who were saying some pretty wild stuff. Like, what stuck out from the testimony that you heard today?
Well, the Vandenberg Air Base was something that I had heard about, but I never heard directly from a first-person witness in regards to what they went through at the time of the incident. And that was not just isolated to one person. There were many people that saw this. This was also documented on a police blotter. And then, as you heard from the witness, the Air Force allegedly destroyed in 3-year cycles some of this information. And so, obviously, there's questions there. If they had this reporting, why was Congress not notified? You would think that if something like that appeared over any military installation, that would probably create a situation where all members of Congress should probably be brought in and briefed on that, because that's a national security issue. And so there's many facets to this, but what I will tell you is that my task force specifically has been covering all things declassification. We don't just stop at UAP. We're also launching investigations and have had major wins on the JFK assassination. Next, we're looking into MLK. So this is just a number of our, I think, wins for the American people, and we look forward to delivering more at our next hearings.
And we'll stay tuned for all of that. Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, thank you so much for being with us.